Hello, welcome to the interview. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you.
Great. Can you tell me a little about yourself?
Sure. My name is Alex. I graduated with a degree in computer science.
Nice. What made you interested in software development?
I've always loved problem solving and technology.
That's great. What programming languages do you know?
I know Python, Java, and JavaScript.
Good. Which language do you enjoy working with the most?
I enjoy Python the most because it's simple and easy to read.
I see. Can you tell me about a project you've worked on?
Yes, I worked on a weather app using Python and Flask.
Interesting. What features did the app have?
The app showed weather forecasts for any city using an API.
Which API did you use?
I used the Open Weather Map API.
How did you get the data from the API?
I made HTTP requests to the API and parsed the response.
That sounds like a great project. Did you work on it alone?
Yes, I worked alone, but I asked for help when needed.
Have you worked with databases?
Yes, I've used MySQL and SQLite for small projects.
What kind of data did you store?
I stored user data, like city names and weather preferences.
Good. Do you know version control?
Yes, I use Git for version control.
How do you use Git?
I use Git to track changes and collaborate on projects.
Have you worked in a team using Git?
Yes, in group projects, we used GitHub for collaboration.
Great. What do you know about object-oriented programming?
OOP is a programming style that uses classes and objects.
What are the main principles of OOP?
The four main principles are encapsulation, inheritance, abstraction, and polymorphism.
Can you explain encapsulation?
Encapsulation is hiding data inside a class and using methods to access it.
What about inheritance?
Inheritance allows a class to inherit properties from another class.
Can you give an example of polymorphism?
Polymorphism lets objects behave differently based on their class.
Good. Do you know any frameworks?
Yes, I've worked with Django and React.
What is Django used for?
Django is a web framework for building websites and APIs.
And React?
React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces.
Do you know how to debug code?
Yes, I use print statements and the debugger in my IDE.
What IDE do you use?
I use Visual Studio Code for most of my projects.
Have you worked with APIs in your projects?
Yes, I've used APIs to get weather data and movie information.
Which API did you use for the movie project?
I used the Movie Database, TMDB, API to get movie details.
How did you handle errors in your code?
I use try-catch blocks to handle exceptions and errors.
How do you test your code?
I write unit tests to make sure everything works correctly.
Which testing framework do you use?
I use PyTest for Python projects and Jest for JavaScript.
Have you ever worked on a team project?
Yes, I've worked on a team project to build a website.
How did you handle communication with your team?
We used Slack for messages and GitHub for version control.
What is your approach to solving problems?
I break down problems into smaller parts and solve them one by one.
Can you give an example of a difficult problem you solved?
Once, I had to fix a bug that stopped users from logging in.
How did you fix that?
I checked the login code and found an error in the database query.
Nice. Do you have any experience with Agile?
Yes, I've worked in teams using Agile for project management.
How does Agile work?
Agile breaks the project into smaller tasks called sprints.
How do you stay organized?
I use task management tools like Trello and Todoist.
How do you handle tight deadlines?
I prioritize tasks and focus on the most important ones first.
Have you worked with front-end technologies?
Yes, I've used HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for creating websites.
How do you make a website responsive?
I use media queries in CSS to make websites look good on any screen size.
What is your greatest strength?
I'm good at learning new technologies quickly.
What is your biggest weakness?
Sometimes, I spend too much time on small details.
How do you overcome this?
I set time limits for tasks to avoid spending too much time on details.
How do you approach learning new languages or frameworks?
I start with tutorials and then try to build small projects.
Why do you want to work for our company?
I admire your company's innovative projects and work culture.
What do you expect from this job?
I expect to learn from experienced developers and grow my skills.
How do you deal with failure?
I analyze what went wrong and learn from my mistakes.
Do you prefer working in a team or alone?
I like working in a team because we can share ideas and learn from each other.
Can you explain how you would design a new app?
I would first plan the features, then design the UI, and finally write the code.
What is your long-term career goal?
I want to become a senior software developer and lead a development team.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, what technologies does your team currently use?
We use Python, Django, and React mostly.
That's great. I have experience with both Django and React.
Excellent. We'll review your application and be in touch soon.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Do you have any final questions for me?
Yes, how soon can I expect a response?
We usually respond within a week.
That's great to know.
Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
I'd like to mention that I'm open to learning any new tools your team uses.
That's good to hear. Continuous learning is important here.
I agree. I'm excited about this opportunity.
We're glad to hear that. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you. It was nice speaking with you.
Same here. We wish you the best of luck.
Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Goodbye.